produced a mile above sea level. You can't get much higher than that.
It's the John Doe Radio Show. How much higher can you get?
Well, what the president said during the campaign, you'll be surprised to know, will be consistent with what we'll be doing here in law enforcement.
And now talking about legalizing marijuana and taxing marijuana to solve budget problems.
Prohibition doesn't work. Maybe after 71 years, it's time for a new approach.
We should be able to give our kids the message we think is appropriate.
A rational, safer choice.
Great celebration of freedom.
Legalize the possession of marijuana.
John Doe Radio. Live.
Welcome. Good morning. How you doing out there? Good. Hopefully fantastic. Thank you for hanging out with us today on the John Doe Radio Show. We've got some fantastic news lined up for you today. In fact, I thought it was possibly going to be another one of those days where we didn't have a ton of news to start off. But yeah, it's definitely not the case, ladies and gents. Make sure, if you're not, give us a chance to catch your follow if you'd like to be reminded when the John Doe Radio starts every day. You can click that follow button. I'm used to seeing it above, but it's actually below. So you can find us there. You can also find us on our Twitter, which the feed is also below the video right now. And then our Discord is there too. So if you'd like to talk with me, you'd like to say what's up, hang out on our Discord. It's not very active right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be active, okay? And also big thanks to Get Seeds Right Here. Make sure you check out getseedsrighthere.com if you would like to have access to some of the best quality that you can find. Get Seeds Right Here. Good friends, homies over there, making sure the show's moving forward and awesome and good, all that stuff. So appreciate that. Today, in news, what we've got for you. We'll see if anything else comes up. God dang, for some reason, it's like, hold on a second. I got to turn off this fan over here. That's partly what I'm hearing. Got to be careful on cam because, you know, I could be wearing the birthday suit, really, when it comes down to it. No, I'm not. I wouldn't risk doing that to you guys. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Oh, shit. I almost forgot. God dang, I was, like, so excited before the show started today. Like, way too excited. As you can tell, I'm like trying to catch myself and slow the roll a little bit with it. You know what I'm saying? God, oh fuck! I just remembered this. This works here because this is a fantastic place to tell this story. And I can tell you this story and dump this out. Oh god, I about lost it yesterday. I'm telling you. So, luckily enough, here in Colorado, we have the awesomeness of dispensaries, and, you know, we can head off to a dispensary. They should be 24 hours, but they're not. That's the only, that thing, and we'll talk about delivery here in Colorado in just a little bit, because we do have a delivery story, and what's happening on that front of things, because god dang it, man, I swear to goodness, I would never go out delivery is a little costly though when it comes down to it, when you're talking about food, etc. So, and I really didn't make I really make no money right now, so I guess that's another part of it. But holy crap. I say this complaining with the understanding that this is first world problems, okay? So I'm not telling you, that this was. I'm just gonna bitch about it, okay? You're gonna like it. I went to the dispensary yesterday and picked up some concentrate. And that was all great, I was in a super awesome mood yesterday, and driving into the dispensary, first of all, this big ass truck comes in and just flies into the parking lot like a dickhead. And like I get out of my car because I was like, oh man, I can't let this guy get ahead of me. I was like, I'll beat him that way. So I got out of my car and this dude just like pulled into the spot that was like right in front with his big ass truck, pretty much taking up 2 spots. Gets out of the truck quickly and walks like right in front of me, 5 feet in front of me. I was like, all right, okay. So I'm being petty. That's fine. No big deal. No worries. So I get into the lobby. I wait for the guy that's in front of me at the door. Now it's like 15 degrees outside. And abnormally humid for Colorado, I guess you could say. I don't know. But just as I explained to you yesterday, for some goddamn reason, my hands, they have like no circulation in them anymore. So whatever, I waited outside till the dude was checked in. And as soon as I walked in, the guy right behind me in line walks right in, and he's like right behind me, breathing down my throat, basically. Breathing down my neck. He has a mask on, but breathing like right here. Enough so that I'm like, you do that kind of thing right now where you're like, bro, you were violating the airspace at this point in time. There's cause for war to be initiated right now, okay? Step the fuck back. Anyway, I check in, and they have these benches. Man, this story was a lot more to the point when I told it last night to the homies. It's still funny, though. We do have important news to get to today. But, so they have these benches, in the dispensary, and there's like a bench here, side by side, and then one here, and then it's like right in the corner, and then another one in the corner. So you have a 2-bencher and then one in the corner. So it really makes it a 1-bencher. And the guy that was ahead of me, he's sitting down in the line just a little bit, and, that's cool. I'm like well away from him, 6 feet. And this other dude comes and sits at the corner of his bench and the corner of my bench. So it's like we're sitting next to me like we're homies. And I was like, what the fuck is this dude doing? So I had like the mask on and I had my hood up. And I was like, oh God. I started saying the Serenity Prayer. And then I shit you not, ladies and gentlemen. I shit you not. This motherfucker. Son of a. Okay. You know those like shoes, like the hippie shoes where or skater shoes? Doesn't have the laces. It's just like, I don't know. For some reason, I think of like, why does Birkenstock come to mind? Birkin shiz come to mind. I don't know. All right. They're just the shoes that you can like take off, and they're not flip-flops, but you can flip them off. First of all, it's 15 degrees outside. Second of all, this dude slips off one of his shoes, crosses his leg over the top of the other towards me, and I swear to God, every single bell in the entire world went off at that point in time. I about lost it on him. Oh, man. Like, who the fuck wears hippy dippy shoes out when it's 15 degrees out? Number one. Number two, keep the distance. Number three, what the? Take your shoes. Keep your shoes on, dude. Like, are you kidding me? And I just kept looking forward. I was like, oh God, please help me. Please save me from destroying this man right now, losing it all. And I could kind of tell that he was like looking at me a little bit. Whatever, dude. But at the same time, I'm staring at the screen in front of me because I'm like, I'm trying to disassociate at this point in time. And in staring at the screen in front of me, I realize Spectra, the cannabis concentrate company here in Colorado, the company I buy conveniently for convenient purposes, not for anything else, but this company has a new slogan. Oil designed with flower in mind. Oil designed with flower in mind. How many people at Spectra did they pass this by? And this may, like, I get maybe what they're talking about, that, you know, because of the products not being, the things we've talked about this week and last week, and the main thing I push when it comes to selecting cannabis, you know, concentrates. Cannabis as a whole, just finding that terpene that works for you, terpenes, going from there, having a product that is whole, not just the THC, not the major important part of it. So I could see how they're like trying to say, hey, our concentrate is not like our vape pens where things are separated. I'm not saying with Spectra specifically, but just in general, you know, where it's distillate cartridge only. I mean, are they saying unadulterated concentrate with I don't know. Jesus Christ. What the fuck are they talking about? All right, today in news. Thanks for putting up with that. I feel so much better right now. Whew. Today in news, we have for you Senate Majority Leader Schumer's marijuana reform push embraced, but stiff challenges await. There's a bunch of information in here. Talks about the process and what could be. I wanted to bring that up again to be kind of all inclusive of what has happened on the federal level. And then I mentioned there Aurora, the dispensary in Aurora, Colorado Harvest Company, which is part of a chain, has got the first recreational delivery license in Colorado. So the Westward brought this story up. I'll get you this information, and we'll talk a lot about delivery and what is included with that, why we really haven't gotten to that point right now in cannabis. You know what I'm saying? Let me do a quick check here, make sure everything's gravy. Know what I'm saying? That, like, once a show at the beginning of the show, production check. 1, 2, check. That, like, once a show at the beginning of the show. Okay, pretty good. I worry about jacking the audio up all the way. I need a digital board so I can, like, put everything, literally everything, into a couple switches. This works great, the loop deck, but this could be better. We'll talk about that. Also, marijuana legalization in North Carolina. We'll bring up what North Carolina is presenting, what they think is important, and the layout of what is happening there. Big thanks to Marijuana Moment for that. Wisconsin GOP lawmakers sour on governor's marijuana legalization plan, but open to narrower reforms. New Mexico marijuana legalization bill gets first hearing this week. We also have something from New York. this I wasn't going to bring up, and I may not continue into this very much today because there's not a lot of new stuff that's happening in New York, New Jersey. I guess what we'll do is we'll basically cover it now, or depending on how much time we spend on everything else, we may read this story. But basically in New York, they're still stuck on those differences between the lawmakers and Cuomo, and nothing's really changed. All right. New Jersey and New York situation just, it bores me because it's the same shit we've dealt with since day one, you know, like red tape, bullshit, getting in the way of progress for years and years and years. It's like you have a state that should have passed legalization, should have gone the direction that they indicated that they were going to go with reform, laws, whatever it is, years and years ago. All right, there we go. All right, and then in Iowa, talking about the continuing push for lawmakers across the United States in smaller municipalities, but also now in individual states. When it talking about psilocybin, Jesus Christ, criminy shiz on a cracker. Psilocybin. I've said it as the wrong thing, silly, for so many times that my brain won't operate the right way sometimes. It's like, nope, you've been a jackass so much, you got to stick with it, son. Nope. You've said Canadian so much, you got to stick with that. There's nope. You dug your hole, now live with it. But yeah, psychedelics. Iowa. And more information about cannabis in Broward County. I thought I enabled this. Why is that not working? I don't know if we'll get to that one. We'll see what the rest of the show looks like. And how much it takes us, how long it takes us to get to these first few ones. And then the very last thing I had to cover today, which it's very quick. This letter to the editor is something that people against cannabis, I mean, obviously someone against cannabis would write, but the concerns in it that they write inside of this letter are the basic concerns that people against cannabis have. And there's stuff that is easily addressed, and also things that give a good opportunity in the right person. Not everybody's open to, discussion and factual data, reason, etc. But opportunities like this, when in previous times I would have been, like, fuck this guy, his couches are burning on fire because he's farked them so much and blah, blah, blah. And, man, there's the blah. That's the new thing here, is we use the blah, blah. Hinting of jadedness and I don't know. That's really what it is. Like, I don't want to explain the rest of the thing because I'm tired of explaining the same shit over, so we blah it over. That's the definition in the JDR book. But instead of just shitting on the parade of this guy, it's, inviting him to sit down and have a conversation. So I think that's important. I think there's a conversation that can be had more with people like this than ever before, obviously. Speaking in terms of brainwashing, and even if they're at the same level of brainwashing as they have ever been, most people are still not completely stupid, and most people see that reform is happening, and they feel something about it. Okay. So understanding that and then catching on to that spark and that opportunity where they might be open to an idea might be able to crack into that drug war brainwash. It's good to take that. So maybe we'll get to that. I don't know. I don't know. Senate Majority Leader. Let's get to this one. Hold on. Let me check on something here. Make sure I don't leak nothing. All right. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's commitment to make federal marijuana reform a priority sent cannabis stocks surging last week and thrilled advocates, but experts caution that high hurdles persist for comprehensive legislation to pass in Congress. What makes the task especially difficult in the U.S. Senate is that 60 votes likely will be required for passage, a tall order in today's hyper-partisan atmosphere. It gives more energy that Schumer is fighting for this, that he wants to do something, and that it's a priority, says Michael Correa, lead lobbyist for Washington, D.C.-based National Cannabis Industry Association. Talked about them a little bit yesterday. But to get 60 senators is going to be a heavy lift. That's part of why I brought this article up today, was to give a little bit more weight and realization of what is going on and try to maybe bring us back down to ground in terms of being so enthusiastic about legalization being passed on the federal level and having good, awesome bills pass. It's like, okay, that's great to think about and we can be excited about that, but has that been the fact in the past with anything in politics? We're not even talking about cannabis specifically, just talking about politics in general is rough. So let's reality check ourselves for a second. So 60 senators. At the same time, unclear what will happen to more piecemeal reform efforts such as cannabis banking and cannabis banking legislation. That measure enjoys strong bipartisan support, but new Senate Banking Chair Sherrod Brown, an Ohio Democrat, reportedly said that marijuana banking should be combined with comprehensive criminal sentencing reform. That the banking bill was sent to Sentencing Reform Committee. If I might be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. Which would maybe make it easier for some of those changes to happen on that level. I kind of picked apart semantics and like what committee is taking that bill on and etc. But I'm not sure it matters that much at this point. As long as, you know, it's a friendly committee and a friendly set of people that are inside of it and helping mold the rules that are passed along with it. The thing that it would be nice to have everything passed all together as one thing. But obviously, as we've learned before, having just one thing pass is difficult, and having, you know, a couple things when presented forward in this specific topic when it comes to cannabis, a little more difficult thing to tackle and present a complete plan with. You have Governor Kristi Noem and South Dakota. It's South Dakota, right? Yes, South Dakota. Basically, one man show of putting a block into recreational cannabis, which one man show is highly inaccurate because the police agency, Noem, and then a judge. I mean, there's three people right there. At least three people involved in that right there. And then medical cannabis yesterday, Noem saying that this is going to take longer than what the state allows for. We're sorry. Sorry, not sorry, basically, when it comes down to it. So, yeah, it can get rough when you're including anything more than should we just legalize cannabis for people and not send them to jail. And it's important to get that that key part done, before anything else. But we are definitely well past just having that done. Everything else that goes with it, taxation, regulation, sales also needs to be included with it, because we're at that point. We're not talking about this, 10 years ago where it's like, okay, we're going to decrim. I almost said it. I stopped myself from the blah. New Senate, we already read that one. That has raised questions about passage of a standalone bill to make it easier for banks to serve cannabis companies. And as I just mentioned, including sentencing reforms with the cannabis banking bill, make it a little bit more difficult to get that done. But also at the same time, when they do things like that, attach it to overall bills or overall what's it called? Jesus Christ, what? It's like you go to look for a word in the filing cabinet and it's not there. Or you miss the handle for the filing cabinet. or is what it is. A budget, that's what I'm looking for. All right, continuing on. Still hopes for reform are high, given that Democrats' newfound control of the House, Senate, and presidency. Schumer, a New York Democrat, said he wants to end the federal government's prohibition targeting marijuana and repair the damage done to communities by the war on drugs. Schumer and fellow Democrat Senators Cory Booker of New Jersey and Ron Wyden of Oregon. See, we got to remember that. I only remember Cory Booker's name. Ron Wyden. We're not going to remember his name. We're going to say we are, and then we're going to forget in literally 2 words. Ron Wyden of Oregon announced in a joint statement last week their commitment to developing comprehensive marijuana reform bills, or a bill. The three held a Zoom call on February 5th to talk with social justice advocates about it. The Democratic senators intend to release a discussion draft in the early part of this year and introduce a bill in the first half of 2021, arguing the measure would ensure restorative justice, protect public health, and implement responsible taxes and regulation. And we read this to you in the marijuanamoment.net story. I think it's very significant when you have the majority leader pushing for comprehensive legislation of this kind and joined by other leading members of the party, said Steve Fox, strategic advertiser for the Cannabis Trade Federation. Steve Fox, also someone who was integral and key at the very beginning here, working with the likes of Mason Tvert and the awesome people there. But the clock is ticking. Reform advocates have only 2-year window to pass a comprehensive bill. The president's party often loses the House during midterm elections. Legislation also must be reintroduced when a new Congress convenes every 2 years. The NCIA's Correa says the dynamic really changed when Democrats won both Georgia Senate runoff races in January. With those victories, the Democrats took control of the Senate through a 50-50 split, with Vice President Kamala Harris as the tiebreaker. As a result, Democrats are the committee chairs, and the whole narrative changes, Correa said. That represents a dramatic shift from former Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's no to even discussing marijuana reform. Public opinion also supports reform. 68% of Americans favor legalizing marijuana on the federal level, according to the latest Gallup poll. But we also said yesterday, no shit, Sherlock. We understand that the polls are at 60, 70, 80%, depending on what area of the internet you do the poll on. 80%, 90, 100. So we legalize marijuana we do that poll. John Doe's site. If it were a massive site, government uses that. Well, it says here, 99.9% of people polled say they want to legalize. And then, the scientists that analyzed the poll say the 0.1% was just some asshat, some It was an XQC viewer trolling, is what it was. I'm just kidding. Where were we at here? In a recent Emerson College poll, a higher percentage of Americans favored recreational marijuana after rejoining the Paris climate talks or establishing a 15-hour minimum wage. Still, Pablo Zwanek, an investment analyst for New York-based financial service firm Cantor Fitzgerald, is worried about the ambitious approach versus smaller individual bills. No, that's not how we need to do it. Okay. Having a larger approach. Okay, well, I'll argue this before we get to what this dude's going to say. We've already discussed here how the smaller bills can wreak havoc on the larger picture. So having something that's all-inclusive forms a system from top to bottom that is functional, works. Did I say functional? Functional and works right from the start and has a great foundation. Okay. It's one thing to do framework for that entire subject we're talking about, for the retail sale, for regulation, for legalization, having solid outlines and framework for those things. But then it's a whole different story to try and plug and play large portions of that regulation and large things that change the framework as you go. It's extremely difficult, and it causes unjust stress on the industry and the people that are trying to get into the industry, and more so the people that are already in the industry, that have to, change whatever process it is. For instance, here in Colorado, labeling laws changing, and companies having to go back into stock and relabel every last thing that they have, just stuff like that. That seems like it would be a small thing, but when it comes down to it, super costly. Super, super costly. So if the puzzle is already hard enough to put together, okay, and if we start trying to carve it out, and then we have this nice puzzle. I mean, it's God, I can't even explain it. Oh man, I did start this morning thinking that this was gonna be a fantastic, amazing, beautiful, wonderful show, and then we've kind of fumbled a little bit. But sometimes, when I feel like the show's fumbled, I go back and watch, and it ends up being some of the better shit. So, I can't trust my intuition. Okay. Cannabis stocks have reacted favorably, although to us the news is mixed, he wrote in a recent research note. We're talking about Pablo Zwanek, investment analyst. He views Schumer's talk. It's freezing in here. That's why my mouth won't move. He views Schumer's effort as a sign of Democrats going forward with the whole enchilada in a bill of bills. It will be did that make sense? I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. I was thinking about something else. It will be a standalone bill, very likely. That said, MJ reform will not be done in isolation, and it will need to be consistent with other reforms from the new administration, such as healthcare, criminal justice, and racial justice. Amber Littlejohn, executive director of the Minority Cannabis Business Association, said her association was one of the groups invited to the February 5th Zoom call. We're happy that the conversations will be inclusive of economic justice and minority entrepreneurs, she said. That's been a missing piece from a lot of the discussions. But she also noted there are many policy issues to resolve on this path to legalization. The reform push comes at a time when a new nonprofit organization called U.S. Cannabis Council, USCC, we talked about these guys yesterday, have been formed by a number of major industry, trade, and advocacy groups and more than 30 cannabis businesses. We talked about yesterday MPP being a large part of this USCC and why I felt it was very important they were a part of the group and why it was maybe less important that some other groups were a part of this coalition. I do agree the Minority Business Association and which I am sure those voices and those concerns are being taken into account because it's the number one thing that's being talked about right now in legalization anywhere. And that is social equity and racial injustice, people that have been affected by the drug war and communities that have been affected by the drug war, mostly being able to benefit from these cannabis laws and being able to benefit from the taxes with it. That's why I feel like it's, and maybe this is my, maybe it's just me and my privilege talking here, but I would think that we are at a point now with this, because it is the number one thing, as I'm saying, and, you know, states are proving with their presentations and their talks about cannabis. First thing that's said is social equity. It's gonna. I would think that it is going to be covered. You know, you have Cory Booker, and I'm sure a gentleman like Cory Booker is not going to allow minority voice and people most affected by the drug war to not have a say in largely forming this bill, and especially the side of sentencing and what we do to try and fix social equity problem that has happened with the drug war. And that's I think letting people out of jail for a sole cannabis offense. That's a good start right there. Problem is that idea as a whole, I don't know if it can fly right now. Like, I don't know if we're at a position in America where we can have the other side agree with us, on that point. It's like, it's one thing that we explain to people that cannabis is not this dangerous drug and this needs to happen and this needs to happen. They see that, but there is for some reason this disconnect with them. And the people that have been put in jail with cannabis and not being able to put the facts that they understand about reforming law and how cannabis is not this horrible, evil drug, but a person who violated the law that was horrible, evil, and shitty and violated their civil rights is still somehow an evil criminal. It's like ultimately they're saying no, their judgment was way too shitty, and even though they knew that the law was not good, man, I am out of vape juice here. I mean, it's legitimately ignoring everything that we're aiming for here by not having the discussion of letting people, out of prison for sole cannabis offenses, letting people out of jail for sole cannabis offenses. It's ignoring the conversation. And it's nice that all these states and on a federal level that we're talking about social equity and we're talking about justice reform, sentencing reform. But here's the thing. I know this and you all know this. It's generally a bunch of lip service, probably going to be a bunch of lip service. Because number one, it's the hot thing to talk about right now. It's the politically just thing to talk about right now. So the people that have no real intention or don't even have the ability to get legislation or something passed, locally, state level, talking about it just because it's what they got to do as politicians. It's their job. So working with the people that are truly dedicated to making these changes, that's an important piece of the puzzle. But also understanding that in the long run, there may be a lot of talk, but we might not be able to walk the walk when it comes to this. Legalization in general, in terms of talking about sales and regulation, and then also getting to where we need to be with justice reform right now in the United States. Like, will we go far enough? Will we be inclusive enough with it? And so far we've proven no. We can't. We've made decent attempts, California, and the attempts that California has made, you're being able to petition the courts to have certain drug charges thrown out, cannabis charges thrown out, having them recategorized from felonies to misdemeanors to, I would suspect that they maybe wouldn't do one down from a misdemeanor to a petty. I mean, that would just be silly. Just throw the thing out. But automatic expungement, things like this, they need to be consistently happening everywhere. And the talk is happening more. We'll see these programs as they're put into place. A lot of the stuff that we've been talking about is well off from being implemented. But as we watch and oversee everything, will these things happen? Will we go far enough? Will it be effective? And after I saw this article, I tried to remind myself of those things, because we've been pretty high on cannabis, and I've been pretty heavy on like, oh yeah, we are going to pass this. We're going to do it. But see, here's the thing is if something gets, as this article mentioned, we had 2 years to really get that done. All right. There's a good chance that, control was sort of pendulum a little bit after this. Who knows, though, after the past 4 years that we've had, it's really going to depend on how Democrats do over the next 2 years. That's really that's gonna be a large part of it. And I think if Democrats can get cannabis reform done and then also do the right things with the economy when it comes to COVID, what those are, I don't know. Am I elected official? No. I don't have to have that answer. God dang it. I don't even have the answer for why Spectra has their brand new slogan. Oil designed with flower in mind. Like, I can't even understand that slogan. So you think I can understand the complexity of recovering from a international pandemic, a global pandemic? No. I mean, I could act like I do, which fake it till you make it. It takes some sort of ego to do what I do, to sit here and, sometimes look up and, well, really all the time, look up and have the thought that you are monologuing to yourself hit you a few times, and then be able to continue on without being wobbled by that haymaker of a realization. It takes some sort of ego to, to accomplish that, but it takes a whole separate kind of ego for what I was just talking about. Like, that's a whole separate that I do not possess and do not have the patience for, the fake it till you make it on a national level like Trump. Because you see, like, what happened with Trump, like the last day in office, or this January 6th, with the Capitol, like, that would not, like, there would be something like, take away all the hate and the BS, like, there would be something that I would say that would cause some sort of riot and situation that happened at the Capitol, minus all the hate and minus all the hurt and all that stuff. We're talking in funny terms and ridiculousness right now and ineptness of JDR. Okay, that's it. Period. Plain and simple. You don't have to take it any further than that. Okay. I would have said something like, as a national leader, that indica, ladies and gentlemen, indica, sativa, and hybrid do not exist. It is not something that is part of your selection process. And they would be like, first of all, the voices, we're going to revolt because of that. Second of all, park your couch. And then there would be like a coast-to-coast riot of people just torn apart and flipped upside down because everything they've known about cannabis and everything they've known about their culture and their doobies has been wrong. How can it be this way? And I'd be sitting there in my chair like, oh God, what have I done? What have I done now? In my younger age, I would have thought that was an inappropriate joke and not made that joke because I would have taken government and life too seriously. But you gotta admit, I admit that was funny. That was funny. And if you didn't think it was funny, you don't know me enough. Because you'd be laughing and feeling sorry for not what I just said, but for me specifically. And my limited brain. Like, Jesus Christ. I know this guy. Like, what the? Are you kidding me? Like. And then Bernie Sanders, again, I come to you with apologies as your friend. Again, I come to you to say that I am not just an idiot, but I'm also your friend. I see like the viewer count like tick up one, and then we do that, and they're like, "Nope, I'm out. Can't. Nope. This guy is. We talking about stoner news and cannabis news, but this guy, nope. This is a bad example of who we're trying to represent with stoner." My God, it has been turned around on myself. All right, serious again. Back to it. You can't crack yourself up, then maybe you're not funny. All right, we were talking about USCC, not the Trojans. I don't even know if USC is the Trojans. Is that right? I don't know. Do I care? No. USCC, which MPP in charge of it, we mentioned yesterday. We won't go too far into it today, but marijuana policy project. More than arguably, pretty much plain and simple, the most effective national organization when it comes to cannabis reform and legalization. Plain and simple. There is really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You try and bring up normal to me, I'm gonna laugh at you and not take it serious. Well, actually, no, can't do that. We've got a whole new group of people that's going to be coming in. There's people that just don't know, so we have to take it seriously. Other organizations, normal, whatever, blah, blah. I said it. See, I'm telling you, it is when the jaded, tired of saying the information comes in, we say the blah. All right, I'm making a ruling right now. It's allowed. The court has spoken. Yeah, there's just, I mean, maybe in terms of culture and holding it down for culture and pushing people in, it used to be a somewhat effective organization for the grassroots and give decent lines of information at the time when there was really none, and people coming together and sticking. See, that's how deep things have kind of gone, and then like the battle and the fight, not only personally, but between the organization and myself, organization and people involved with JDR. there's a larger side than just me versus normal. That is not like that. It's like, oh God, is it John Doe is like, I'm gonna have to look in this, because if it's somebody that he has some shiz with, there's a pretty good chance there's a reason that they're mad at him. I do admit that is the case. I do. I cannot deny that fact. But I will tell you, this specific case, I am not the only one. But MPP above and beyond, without shizzing on any other group or taking anything away from anybody else. It's just plain and simple. I trust MPP to run with something. Hopefully they're not like eventually become the evil enemy, and they're like end goal to everything and get in with everybody and do good, only to come in on the federal level and fart the couch. Like I don't see that happening. I don't see that as the case. You know what I'm saying? So there might be some bad apples here and there with stuff, but I don't believe that MPP would, number one, allow that situation. Whoa, let's back the train up here, because Rob Campy. Okay, let's back to. I'm talking about marijuana policy specifically. I ate my words before they even came out of my mouth right there. I knew what I was saying was part of an autopilot, and I was trying to find out where I was going with the end to get out of this organization talk and back into the article, and my brain went down the jackass road. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there has been issues with the head of MPP and personnel. Yeah. Responsible on the actual reform side and presenting bills and all. Anyway, let's move on. Jesus. Oh my goodness. I don't remember another time to where there was not even something out of my mouth, and before you even said it, there's a moment in time, and time is relative. Things like this prove it. Time is relative. There is a moment in time between where your brain commits to saying something and you actually say it. You know what I'm saying? There's studies that, like biologically, that the eyes and the brain is like processing things ahead of time. So like, you know, in a way we're kind of like operating blind, and we're operating ahead of scale. Anyway, it's really weird to explain it that way, but you know what I'm saying. And it's like my brain got caught. I got caught in that moment of realization, and it slowed down enough that I was like, shut the hell up, you idiot. As I was saying what I was saying. And then the autopilot was set. It just you couldn't hit eject at that moment. We were already ejected. We were out of the plane. All right, it's about an hour in. I'm going to have to use the restroom. Let's finish with this article. The fact that we're having trouble keeping the click-throughs is a problem. There is a decent amount of new people that are clicking through the show every day, but we're not getting the follows and we're not getting the viewership. Need to figure it out. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but is it too much? Is it too little? Have these bastards added my emote yet? By the way, if you'd like to subscribe to us and support the JDR, regardless, even if you listen to the show, or if you listen to the show every day, I know there's a few people that skim through. If for some reason you managed to hit this specific part, you can come over and support us here at Twitch. Also get myself used to doing some of these advertisement stuff. before we finish this article, because we've gotten bored, obviously, with the article and have moved on to silliness and craziness and just shiny, distracting things. But for $4.99 and then a tier 2 and a tier 3 at separate cost, if you would like those, you can have JDR commercial free. Figures we would drop frames right at that exact second. You can have JDR commercial free. We've made 20 cents here on the John Doe Radio Show with commercials. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. I need to be better with setting those commercials. It's probably another reason why people just kind of click through, because they get hit with that pre-roll. You can also support us by, like I said, subscribing, and we will have 3 awesome emotes, and then we'll add another one, so we'll have 4 emotes here on the JDR. Big thanks to Get Seeds right here for the gift of the 15 Subaroonie earlier this month, which put us over that, and then the tier 3 that Chris had put us over and allowed us to have 4 emotes. All right, yeah, that's cool. So, but we have to have that emote. I'm gonna talk to you about it when we get it. All right, it's a throwback to the last time we did JDR in the studio with Bike. Anyway, I don't know. Kenny Loggins looked like me. Let's just say that. They're probably trying to, they probably ran it through a system of approval or whatever, and it's like come up as, you know, flagged. It's like, is it this person? And you may not be able to use the likeness of another person or something. I don't know. I don't think I saw that. I think we changed it enough to be, you know, to be an art piece. It's probably like someone looking at Kenny Loggins, the emote, and me, a picture all together side by side, headshots, and they're like, could he argue successfully that he's Kenny Loggins? And you know, I think he can. I really do. I think he can. You know, for some reason, when you put Kenny Loggins and JDR side by side, this is like a couple of handsome mother truckers. I'm just kidding. It was funny when Bike pointed that out to me, though. What was that noise? Steve Hawkins, the group's interim CEO. We're talking about USCC here. Which Cory Booker, and then I told you I was going to forget the other guy. Cory Booker and... whatever. Cory Booker and the other person of the 3 that are presenting this bill, comprehensive reform and legalization. It's their group and their all that they put together. So Steve Hawkins, the new group's CEO, said the Senate leaders' push for legalization underscores the importance of the cannabis industry having a unified voice, such as the USCC. Certainly, this is a moment in Congress where we might actually accomplish the end of prohibition, Hawkins said. What's different about USCC is that there's not 25 people knocking on Schumer's door. We will accomplish nothing with that kind of strategy. See, they're already talking about how everybody's... And yesterday, as we mentioned, you know, some of these groups would do well to work together, but here's the thing is they've seen the power and they're running for it. You know? Like the ring. They're all trying to get the ring.
It's my precious. It's my precious.
No, that wasn't either. All right, we give up. On my own, I would have kept going and tried to find a decent voice, but I will not torture you, okay? Okay, all right. We do know when things are splintered and fractured, as reform efforts have been before, we end up failing. I talked with you about that yesterday. Went into my... we talked about that yesterday, and it went into my conversation with you. Sorry, I just got a message over there, and I gotta turn those off. That popped up. That was an important message too. Sidetracked me. Everything. What were we talking? Oh yeah. All right. So yesterday we talked about how NCIA and NORML and even the Minority Cannabis Business Association not being a part of the USCC, and this what I think is the major powerhouse and the group that we could trust to get the most done. You know, it's concerning the Minority Business Association not a part, but they denied acceptance, and these other groups have denied acceptance. So it's not like we kind of made it out at the beginning, I think, that MPP didn't want these people to be a part. NORML, I don't think they wanted NORML to be a part, to be honest with you. But I also think NORML was presented with the idea of having actual responsibility for once, and again, they said no. We're just fine with... Shut up, John Doe. It is important that you know what groups are effective and who you should give your money to, I think. As we mentioned before, giving to nonprofits, make sure you're checking into where all the money's going, how effective the nonprofit is. But with the story that we talked about yesterday, all the groups not being a part of this particular organization, it's concerning, because as we mentioned, and as they said here, things being splintered and fractured at this point in time, because we've gone so long and so many groups have tried to enter into the ring. That would be wonderful. A Royal Rumble of cannabis groups. Each group gives 2 representatives, and we have a literal Royal Rumble. Oh, it's too good to be true. But we've gone on so long with this, and infighting and shit that happens. It's a very small community, the cannabis community, when it comes down to it. Grows larger and larger every day, but at the same time, the reform side of things and lobbyists, large groups, it's limited. And there are groups that pop up all the time and fail all the time. But the groups that have been steady for years consistently now, the MPP and NCIA, for instance, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, Drug Policy Project, etc. There's history there with these organizations. So, it makes a little bit of sense that they maybe not are able to work together right now. When you think about what is on the line and how big of a moment we are at when it comes to cannabis reform, that statement seems ridiculous to make, that you wouldn't be able to come together, you wouldn't be able to form some sort of progressive presentation now, of all times. Now, this is what we've been working for, but as we talked about yesterday, them trying to lead the way, and whether it be that they think that they are the righteous ones and they have the solution and will be the most effective, or it being something that they want the power in the end with, that if they are successful or if they separate themselves from the group, that they will be able to create or be part of or benefit from somehow that, getting a larger voice in the end. At the very least, and the most innocent to think about part of this, them not wanting to be a part in fracturing, is that they feel legitimately, as they said, that their voices could be more effective independently, and then everything that plays out in this process until legalization, and then even after, that they're a valued part, that they would be able to have some sort of independent input and focus on the quote-unquote independent goals that they have, and build their status and build their power and build their effectiveness. And hopefully those are righteous things on that side of their efforts. But a few groups have proven that it's not necessarily that way. A few groups have proven they just can't work friendly with other people. And a few groups have proven that they just can't do anything of effectiveness whatsoever, period. And the thing that keeps them going is the donations of people like you. Just like any other nonprofit out there, or any other special interest organization. may have once been an effective shizzle in the hizzle, but now not necessarily. All right, I got to use the restroom. I will be right back. We get to Colorado delivery next here on the JDR. Thank you very much for hanging out with us.
One mile high, John Doe. The Stash.
That's funny. I'm gonna take another dab. All right, so let's get back into the show here on JDR. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Yeah. Who are we at? Oh, yeah. We're talking about this national reform. Buddy, I just found out some shizzy news. That's unfortunate. My love goes out to you. Love you, brother. I'll finish off this story here. We're pretty much done with this story. That gives us a little bit more perspective on everything that's happening on the national level for regulation and where we're at and what we can expect, you know, give us a little bit more of a grounded base. A grounded perspective, I guess I should say, for that, rather than just, you know, flying straight into what we were talking about, full steam. This is how it's going to happen. This is how it's going to go down, you know, etc. Blah, blah. Stop using it. I'm getting sick of that. All right. Display. In terms of delivery, it's been one of the topics here in Colorado that has generally been taboo. One of the things that we haven't been that progressive on up until recently, up until last year. Was it last year or was it the year before? Anyway, we now have a system in place that will allow for deliveries, okay? You have to get licensed locally by a municipality. It's not just a situation where you can get licensed and by the state and then have free reign over the rest of the entire state. No, it's like approved inside of a certain vicinity, independent rules. You know, we still got that home rule thing going on here in Colorado. So it can be difficult, and it has been difficult because I mentioned at the very beginning, sort of this taboo topic here when it comes to weed in Colorado still is that delivery side of things. You know, it's perfectly fine to have delivery or drive-throughs when it comes to alcohol, but when it comes to cannabis, this is something that is like head-exploding information to think about for some people for some reason. So we just haven't got there yet. And it is unfortunate that we haven't got there yet because it's a very needed situation. Something that I would appreciate very much so, as the story I told at the very beginning, you know, hinted to. So it's starting to happen. One by one, slowly in places. One by one, I mean medical side. There's a dispensary in Boulder. And then there's a dispensary, and that's medical. And then there's a dispensary in Denver, Aurora, that's recreational. So one by one. See, there you have it. An Aurora dispensary has received Colorado's first recreational marijuana delivery permit, but residents in the state's third largest city will have to wait a few weeks until they can order weed to their doorsteps. Man, the protein shake I had, it doesn't want to go down. Me indigestion. It'll be a few weeks before the state's largest city will have Jesus Christ. I had such high hopes for today. I had such high hopes. It'll be a few weeks before Aurora can get delivery. There. It's that simple. The State Marijuana Enforcement Division has been open for recreational delivery applications since January 1st and now lists High Country Supply, LLC, operating as Aurora Dispensary Colorado Harvest Company, as the lone permit holder. Colorado Harvest Company owner Tim Cullen confirms that his dispensary chain's Aurora location at 11002 East Yale Avenue. Should have just skipped the address. Received a permit, and he says he may have a bigger announcement tomorrow, which is today, with a special guest that he can't yet name. What are they gonna have? Some? Wait, is today the 11th? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna click the Westward without the front page of Westward without clicking off of the broadcast screen. We'll just continue on with the story. I bet it's like a celebrity delivery driver or something like that. That's a good idea. It's definitely a very, very, very smart idea. Whoever he gets, I definitely appreciate the commitment to the game, because that that commitment to the game is to go and get licensed, etc. Because you have to get licensed if there's going to be a delivery driver. Part of this, that driver's got to be licensed through the state of Colorado. It's so funny to be talking about these things. Like, I still stop myself, and like, even though this should be normal to us, and it is normal, it really is, but I remind myself all the time that this is not normal to everybody, and it's something we should, sometimes take a step back from and appreciate. This is like one of those, I have those moments instead of just rolling with it as normal and yes, yes, you see this. Oh yes, act like you've been here before. I'm like,
oh shit, look at that. Oh, it's so shiny.
Cracks me up. But yeah, this is definitely something that's needed, and it will expand increasingly throughout Denver's metro area, the metro area, which includes, Aurora, Denver, pretty much Aurora, Denver. But yeah, other places, surrounding places, Englewood, Littleton. I said Englewood.
I legit just went about it, said Englewood twice, after you damn well know you said it 2 words ago.
He hopes to have delivery drivers on the road in Aurora by March 1st, but the store still needs approval from the city of Aurora, which opted into a recreational marijuana delivery in December, with a provision requiring that all licenses be reserved for applicants who can prove that their families were negatively impacted by the war on drugs, earn less than 50% of the state median income, or come from a community designated as low economic opportunity zone by the state. How does the chain get that, though? Office of Economic Development and International Trade. That's who it's got to be certified, designated low income opportunity zone by. However, the city's delivery ordinance also grandfathers in Aurora's 23 existing dispensaries. That's how. Just keep reading, John Doe. It always tells you. Not always. And Cullen is confident his application will be approved once submitted. So he got it through the state based on the fact that the city of Aurora... So in order to be granted license by the state, the local municipality where you're at, which would be Aurora in this case, would have to approve delivery. So they have approved delivery, and then the wording of the state felt confident that the wording of the city's rules grandfathering them in would fly. So that's how they got the state license before the local. So I'm excited about this. This is something it's key. If I had enough dough, starting up a delivery company, contracting with Colorado Harvest Company or whoever to service them as they grow. LiveWell, I'm sure, will do that all in the internal. But, if you can plug and play with somebody out there that's already got something going and operating independently, which I am not, but I'm saying they would go for that too. Larry Flint passed away yesterday. I was going to get to this at the top, and I forgot. Very disrespectful of me. Larry Flint, the controversial publisher who... Jesus Christ, when he talked today. Larry Flint, the controversial publisher who founded Hustler magazine, died at the age of 78. His daughter, Teresa Flint, confirmed to NBC News that she was with her father alongside his wife when he died Wednesday morning at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. Flint launched Hustler in the 1970s, a print extension of his adult club of the same name that featured nude hostesses. A pornographic publication grew in popularity. Flint became the target of critics who called the magazine obscene. The porn magnate's ensuing legal battles over the content of his magazine are now considered landmark free speech cases. Flint fiercely defended his right to publish amid prosecution and threats against his life. Flint was shot exiting the Gwinnett County Courthouse in Georgia in 1978, where he was facing trial for distributing obscene materials. The attack left Flint paralyzed from the waist down, and the judge declared a mistrial. Joseph Paul Franklin, a serial killer and self-proclaimed white supremacist, claimed he shot Flint and attorney Gene Reeves, though the shooter was never identified or convicted. This. Reverend Jerry Falwell sued Flint in 1983, the year I was born, after Hustler published a satirical ad claiming Falwell had a drunken incestuous relationship with his mother in an outhouse. The parody was modeled after a real ad campaign for Campari, which included interviews with celebrities. In what is considered a historical First Amendment case, Flint appealed all the way to the Supreme Court and won. The justices agreed in a unanimous ruling that parodies of public figures are considered protected forms of speech and that Falwell could not seek damages for emotional stress. We were to hold otherwise, there can be little doubt that political cartoonists and satirists would be subjected to damage awards without any showing that their work falsely defamed its subject, Chief Justice William Rehnquist wrote in an opinion for the case. If I had an opportunity to speak to Larry Flint, which never really, necessarily felt the need to say, I never really felt the need and the want to meet Larry Flint, so to speak, but I've over time understood the importance of what he put on the line and what he fought for. And as a person and as an activist who felt something was morally, right and morally okay, he used the money and things he gained from that side of things to help solidify and back up the ability to print and say, sometimes we'll print and say counterculture things. So the one thing I would say to Larry Flint would be thank you. Because who knows where history would lead us without people and events like what Larry Flint was. Also, when you learn about it, we watch the movie, it's larger than life. Like one of those larger than life characters. It's crazy. If each one of those if everything were to be individually fought in different ways by different people, we could easily end up with, a different outcome to today. So the things that he fought for and the things that he was challenged with, obscenity, were so far reaching in inclusivity of its exclusivity that it had such a huge, far-reaching effect on things, and solidified, those freedom and that ability to print and say, educate. Plus, from what I understand, I'm not too familiar with the Hustler magazines, etc. Blah blah. God, I gotta buy if I had any money, I gotta buy a sub for one person chat. So when I do that shiz. But I'm told Hustler is looked back on very fondly by gentlemen and ladies and others. It is looked on by people then with great joy and great fondness. That old school nudity is just, the older you get, the older I get, I'm like, there's... Maybe it's just being interested in older ladies at this point. I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about right now. I really considered at one point starting up in tribute to the late and awesome Jenny. She had a Sexpot radio podcast and, talking about getting someone on the show, a lady who was very comfortable with these topics and doing a show with them, because I'm not very comfortable with these topics and discussion. But I think it would be an interesting mix. I think it would draw in a lot more people at the beginning than maybe what we're trying to do here. But this is the good we're trying to do in the world. All right, the next story I got for you guys today. Let's see here. We're gonna go on North Carolina, Wisconsin, New Mexico is what I wanted to get to next. We also have this. I'm not too interested in that. Iowa. Okay, I think we're good now. All right, New Mexico. As the governor of New Mexico steps up her push to enact marijuana legalization, a House committee is set to take up two separate proposals to end cannabis prohibition at a hearing this weekend. One bill that will be considered by the Health and Human Services Committee on Saturday incorporates social equity provisions sought after by advocates. Introduced by Representative Javier Martinez, it would allow adults 21 and older to possess at least 2 ounces of cannabis and grow up to 6 marijuana and 6 immature plants for personal use. It would also create a system of regulated and taxed cannabis sales. At least is throwing me off here. I was trying to analyze that for a second, but I will admit defeat and say, okay. Does that mean you're going to give me 2 ounces? Because that's what it sounds like you're going to give me. 6 plants? That you're going to give me that? To me, that's what it sounds like here. Yeah. Of the 4 separate legalization bills in New Mexico we're talking about here, this session, Martinez is the only one that includes provisions to automatically expunge prior cannabis convictions and use tax revenues from marijuana sales to support reinvestments in communities most impacted by the war on drugs. The lawmakers' proposal would require rules for the market to be implemented by January 2022. However, existing medical marijuana dispensaries would be allowed to launch adult use sales starting in October. Some revenue from legal sales would be used to support a community reinvestment program for communities impacted by the war on drugs and to assist low-income medical cannabis patients. New Mexico is well positioned to lead the nation with adult cannabis use legalization framework. All right. Wait a second. New Mexico. I can't even finish this with I can't even finish this statement. It's so full of bullshit. New Mexico well-positioned to lead the nation with adult cannabis use legalization framework. Okay, first of all, other states have already been there. You're not leading the nation in anything at this point, really. Maybe legalization because you're one of the first in, but can you really call yourself a leader at this point? I don't know. I don't think so. And especially New Mexico, okay? And this is said with all due love and all due respect. You have had plenty of opportunity to open your access to cannabis patients and make the medical marijuana system there a lot easier to swallow, a lot more palatable and successful of a system, regulation-wise. Like, you have no room to talk about how you're going to create something that's effective on the recreational side. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And righting the wrongs of the failed war on drugs. It's a bunch of hot air that's coming out. Like, I understand that, new leader, new day, new charge, but you still can't ignore the past. Still, this is where we're at. I mean, it'd be great if we could, but we can't. We can, but others don't. The governor looks forward to robust debate over the next few weeks. Notably, the chair of the House panel taking up the bill this weekend is a co-sponsor of Martinez's bill. The other piece of legislation scheduled for Saturday's hearing, sponsored by Representative Tara Lujan, is more limited in scope. Why is it today? Here's the thing: is like I'm like over enunciating, and under enunciating things. Like that Saturday, I said, like I don't even think I could do it again. Saturday. And then the other times it's like whatever. Wait, what is this? Hold on. Is this like freaking out thinking this is like the Weeknd song DMCA-able. The other piece of legislation scheduled for Saturday's hearing in New Mexico, sponsored by Tara Lujan, is more limited in scope. It allows adults 21 and older to purchase and possess up to 2 ounces of cannabis. Personal cultivation would be prohibited, but growing up to 3 mature plants would be decriminalized, punishable by a $500 fine without the threat of jail time. The language from Lujan's bill is identical to separate legislation sponsored by Senator Daniel I.V. Soto that was filed last week. Meanwhile, Senator Cliff Pirtle, I wonder if let me check over here. I wonder if that guy's friends like call him Pirtle the Turtle. You think they do? I mean, does that mean if they do? Call him Pirtle the Turtle? If they don't know him that well, then yes, it is probably mean. But what if they do know him pretty well and they do call him Pirtle the Turtle? Do you think he says, no, that's Mitch's name? Don't call me that? That's Mitch's name? Or do you think he says, hey? That's my name? I gotta check something here online real quick that is time sensitive. Apologize. Okay. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. All right. If you are hanging out with us today, thank you again very much for hanging out with us. I know today's not been as focused as yesterday, but if we hit that 10 o'clock start time and we want to hit it just right, sometimes there's going to be shiz that we got to like shake off or things that happen that, we got to focus back in with, as is the case today. Mainly at the beginning of the show, I think I got overexcited, and then 2, I'm going to blame it on my dog Molly. Yep. I'm going to blame it on my dog Molly. Whenever I start talking on the show, well, she doesn't hang out in this area during the day. She likes to hang out on the second, the stairs go up, and then there's like a landing, and then they go up the opposite way. She likes to hang out there because there's windows down there. She can see all around. She's got a view of the whole place. All right. She understands what's happening then. But I start talking like this, and she never really heard me, talk to myself like this. Had she been my dog from the very beginning of me doing radio, she would understand that this moron is just talking to himself. But when I start doing it now, she starts to worry that there's something wrong with me, and moves from her perch, which she takes her ATREAT. Who knows if she's listening right now? Maybe right outside right now. I'm not even kidding you. So get that, to like take her away from that situation and have her be like, stand outside the door and be like, listening in, like, what's wrong with this guy? Are you... Like when there's a couple other dogs here, sometimes it's just like, you motherfuckers hear this? Like, who is he talking to in there? There's nobody else in there. There's nobody else in there. I know there's nobody else in there. What is he doing in there? That's exactly what the dog does. And, I guess kind of makes sense a little bit of... So when I come home, she's not exactly like other dogs, okay? Where other dogs are like jumping up at the door for you, welcoming you home. And like I told my friend yesterday, it's like... Whenever the dogs get to the door, they're like waiting there for you, and they're like, we knew you were going to be here. This is why we've met you at this door, and we are going to once again give you a sermon from our good boy, Lord and Savior, Borky Bork. Okay, we start again. No, that's not my dog. My dog is like laying on that second floor balcony thing so that when you walk in the door, you're pretty much like face to face with her, maybe like 4 feet apart, but you're still like face to face with her. And she's laying there staring at you with the puppy dog eyes. And one time she had her pink stuffed animal that she refuses to rip up, ripped up everything else, but this pink stuffed animal, it's her baby. She had that like laying in her arm and like her head on top of it. As I come through the door, looking at me like, you haven't fed me in 10 days. You left for my entire life. The squirrels out back decided to play tricks on me. What the hell? Where have you been? That's what... dogs do mimic their owner's behavior. Yeah. Jeez. Okay, let's move on. Back to New Mexico. Filed legalization in 2019 that would have established a state-run market. Also recently put a reform proposal. This Senator Cliff Pirtle, the turtle, who is not Mitch, that would create a private commercial industry. It would also allow adults 21 and older to purchase and possess up to 2 ounces of marijuana. It's not clear when those Senate bills will receive hearings. Martinez told Marijuana Moment that he expects... I got an ingrown hair on the inside of my nose. Isn't that just a pain in the ass? It's a pain in the nose. At least it's not an ingrown hair in your... Wait, no. Stop. Martinez expects the House panel to hold votes on the bills at Saturday's hearing in addition to taking testimony. Once again, thanks to Tom Angel and the crew over at Marijuana Moment, marijuanamoment.net, for getting this information too. Martinez told Marijuana Moment, blah, blah, blah. We said that. All four bills call for the establishment of a new body to regulate the adult use marijuana program. Currently, the State Department of Health is responsible for overseeing the medical cannabis market, and those responsibilities would be transferred to either a new agency or committee under the proposals. The bills are also largely similar when it comes to the proposal tax rate. They range from 16% at the lowest end to 20% at the highest. But aside from Martinez's bill, none of the other proposals contain robust social equity provisions. That's what it is. My jaw is just tight today, so just enunciating and reading. Unless we want to do the stoner thing and bring it down here, then we'll be able to do everything we want. But will you be able to understand me? That's the other part of it. I don't think you will be. What? A majority of North Carolina adults support legalizing marijuana for adult use, and 3 in 4 say it should be legal for medical purposes, according to a new poll. Been live for 2 hours? Holy shit. According to a new poll, the survey found that the percentage of respondents who favor recreational cannabis legalization increased by 9 points from 45 to 54% since the firm last polled the North Carolina residents in 2017. I mean, that's a long time ago. This is a really long time ago. I'm still surprised, though, even in 2017. That's how far we've come in just a few years. Even back then, the polls still were lower and not representative of individuals' true feelings, but more representative of the Borg mindset, the hive mindset. Probably using those references incorrectly because I have not watched the Deep Space Babylon Star Trek V. Okay. I apologize to any Babylon 5 Star Trek fans, Deep Space Nine people. I apologize to you people. Haven't I already done enough? For 45... I don't know why. I don't know why. Don't ask. But yeah, we just in just a short few years, we've come from a situation where people have felt weary about cannabis in a poll sense and saying, yes, I want legalization for one reason or another, to now overwhelmingly, 54%, that's the lowest poll we've seen of any kind anywhere in the longest time. So this is from Elon University poll. And that's another thing is, like, depending on what group polls and what group they poll for the data, this is just it's such a silly way to get it done unless you're doing it correctly. If you're doing a poll correctly and you have the right sample group, then we might be talking. But I firmly believe with cannabis, it is hard to get that right and mixed polling group. Because the two sides really don't hang out, and like getting them from the same location, I don't know, whatever. Support for medical reform dipped to 73%, down from 80% in the earlier poll, but that's because there was a push to get things going here and a want to make a point probably with that number. This is why polls are stupid. When it comes to recreational legalization, I'm just skipping that. Opposition fell substantially over the last 3 years. Jason Husser, director of the Elon poll, said in a press release, yeah, but it also depends on who you poll and talk to. There's zero chance in my mind that legalization everywhere, pretty much, except for maybe in small, pinhead, and I mean not pinhead by, oh god, that was such a wrong term to use. I mean small, the size of pinhead, not the people. Okay, that's not what I meant. Small communities and outliers, pretty much across the board, nationally, decrim legalization is a pretty accepted idea. It's just when you add politics into the mix, then you have shiz that becomes complicated. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the majority of Americans just want to see people suffer. And that could be true, too. I mean, we've seen some interesting things here the past couple of years. This director of this poll says he suspects the fall in support is due in part to a wave of states that have passed legalization measures. Medical marijuana legalizations remain broadly supported in every demographic group we examined. Oh, I thought he was going to say why it dropped. Survey identified a number of demographic trends that were consistent with findings from other polls on our cannabis policy. For example, young people were most likely to back legalization. Same things that we've said before. You know, the older you get, the less you support it. 32% of those 65 and older said it should be legalized. But see, here's the thing: is like these people have been lied to so long, brainwashed for so long, and then think about the amount of people that we have in office and legislatively that either echo this still or are the ones that brainwashed. They're the ones in charge of everything. It's insane. It is an astonishing number to think about. Way too many. Most Republicans supported reducing penalties and legalizing medical marijuana, specifically. Democrats more likely to embrace legalization, 59% compared to 43%. We're talking about specifically North Carolina here too, by the way. So we'll keep following this and see what happens in North Carolina. See if there's any finishing information that we needed to add. Nope. Governor of Wisconsin's newly announced proposal to legalize marijuana in the state is already getting significant pushbacks from leaders in the Republican-controlled legislature. I think this will be the last story we cover today. Actually, we've already been live for 2 hours. Controlled legislature, but some members have signaled an interest in enacting more modest cannabis reforms, such as decrim or allowing medical cannabis. Governor Tony Evers said on Sunday that he will be including a full legalization plan in his 2021-2023 budget request next week. It's a step up from his 2019 proposal that called for legalizing medical marijuana and decrim simple possession. I added in there, which the GOP Assembly and Senate killed at the time. Straight slayed it. But while the governor, and not in a good way,
you slayed it, sister.
But while the governor has evolved on the issue, Senate President Chris Topanga, not Topanga, because that would be weird. Topanga possibly the first real, definitely on the list of first crusher. Not Chris Topanga, the Republican senator from the great state of Wisconsin, but Topanga from Boy Meets World. You see difference? Topanga said on Wednesday that the adult use legalization is a non-starter with GOP-controlled legislature. The legalization of recreational marijuana is not in the best interest of Wisconsinites. My brain looked ahead and saw Wisconsinites and it was like, is that really what you call yourselves? Really? He said in a press release on Wednesday, there is a serious health and societal issue that needs to be understood, said Governor Evers. And we shouldn't sacrifice the safety of the people of Wisconsin, particularly our children in pursuit of the mighty dollar. The governor is adamant we follow science when it comes to COVID-19, but turns a blind eye when it comes to legalizing a drug that has no FDA approval. Well, that's because of bullshit politics and the inability for the drug to be studied, specifically, up until just here recently. And it's not like the United States is the only one. It's not like the United States is the be all say all, even though it seems like that sometimes. It's been studied elsewhere. It's not like you've been rejected here and then everywhere else in the world is rejected because America says so. That is true a lot of the cases, and it has held back a lot of the research, 100%. But there's been plenty of cannabis study done. So you could take this apart easily. What happened to
Keeping our kids safe. Oh my God.
GOP lawmakers might not be willing to budge on adult use marijuana for now, but there are some who see room for compromise. Assembly Speaker Robin Voss has said, for example, that while he opposes recreational legalization and decrim, he is open to allowing medical cannabis, albeit not through the budget process. And Senator Mary, that's because they know they're gonna get shoved in a corner and forced possibly to do something that they don't want to. It's like, oh, we want full control over an independent bill presented. Senator Mary, I'm not even going to try and say her last name, said recently, if we start with medical marijuana inside a very regulatory framework, I think the citizens will be open to that. They will everywhere. I mean, first of all, this very regulatory and kind of like basic framework, all-inclusive regulatory framework is what she's talking about here, is that should be allowed anywhere. Everywhere should be okay with that. Even though they're not. Anything less. I thought of the Snickers commercial. Is not satisfying. That is true too, but it's anything less is not just. And it's not right. You know, we have a moral obligation to create a framework and a system that caters to the success of that ultimate goal we have, whether it be medical marijuana, study, recreational, etc. Allow it to be done if that's what we're going to do. Do not choke it off with regulation and rules. This senator we just mentioned, last name Belskowski. Look, we almost had another one there. Kelly Kapowski. Felskowski. She plans to reintroduce a medical cannabis legalization bill this session and said she hopes that her colleagues will at least be willing to entertain a debate over the policy change. The biggest thing we are asking for this year is a hearing, she told the news who interviewed her for that information, and then was put into this article by Marijuana Moment, and then is echoed from this article by me to you. And I put the same beds in twice. I can hear it. This song sounds like the Weeknd song, doesn't it? The Light song? I don't know. While it wouldn't be the comprehensive reform that Evers and advocates are pushing for in Wisconsin, advancing medical cannabis legalization would represent a notable development. A Republican leader stripped the proposal from the governor's previous budget, as well as his plan to decriminalize marijuana possession. Meanwhile, two GOP state lawmakers, Kathleen Bernier, should have been an easy one, but it wasn't, whose service as vice chair of the Majority Caucus, and Representative Shay Sortwell, do see an opportunity, both Republicans, to move decrim legislation this year, and are reportedly circulating a draft bill to achieve the reform among their colleagues, according to Cannabadger. The Republicans putting in decrim bills when they know that we could get legalization. I don't know. I'm not at the point of viewing that as a win yet. I view that as some shit that they just don't understand, and they're still lost. If you're not with me, you're against me, type of thing. Even though it's not, I mean, it's not like that. It ain't like that really, necessarily. But that's what it feels like sometimes. And the Republicans are going to do this, and some of them, are not giving up any ground at all, and I get that. But the ones who are have to partly understand part of this is not the horrible thing that the ones who think it worse and are fighting even more heavily and they've sided with for so long, that they make it out to be. Like, they understand that, and the ability to have conversation with them about legalization is in my mind not even there's no step away there. It's like you're already there. The only reason why you haven't fully completed the step is because you're just trying to be an asshat and be difficult and win over your constituents and play the game of bullshit. That's why the two-party thing is just so old and sparked out. Like, it's so ineffective when it comes time for trying to get change done, effective change done. Now, granted, it can be said when you add, 10 different ingredients and people adding to the pot that it's more difficult to get to, something effective in the end. Yes, that can be said too. But what we're talking about here is at least having a third option, a third or fourth listen to an effective viewpoint and input that comes into play. Because you have these times like now where the pendulum is swinging, and it's swinging far and wide, and it's like the changes that happen because of political bullshit and political movement, not because of what is exactly needed to happen in the economy or with the people on a social level, equity, etc. Like, I think in the best of case scenario and in la pipe dream land, we add one or two different views, extra viewpoints to this old Democrat Republican thing. The pendulum's not as wild. Maybe it doesn't get swing as much, but then again, maybe it does. Who knows? All right, I think that's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you very much for enjoying and hanging out with us here on the John Doe Radio Show. We'll finish getting through Wisconsin when the information comes up, etc., etc. And then we have a few stories here I have left that we get to tomorrow. But, yeah, that'll do it for today. Thank you, guys. Thank you to Get Seeds right here. Big homie over there, Bike, big thanks to you. GetSeedsRightHere.com. If you would like to get your seeds right here, trusted, valuable source of access. You know what I'm saying. We'll be back with you tomorrow here on the JDR, and I think I was trying to get Dunn on today. Maybe we'll try and get him on tomorrow, but possibly Adam Dunn from TH Seeds. If not, we'll be talking about cannabis news as usual, as we do Monday through Friday. And then I've been trying to put together, I've been trying to get permission to play a movie or something, like Business Beyond Getting Higher. So, whatever, where we could sit here and just kind of chill. I don't have to do too much. We're just talking about stuff, watching a TV show or stuff. It sounds like a good idea. All right. Anyway, I'm John Doe. Have yourself a fantastic day. You are excellent. I appreciate your support. Until we meet again tomorrow. See ya.